Hi everyone, this is E.D. Graziani, and I'm going to do a little bit of reading from one of my novels, which is also published by Second Story Press. This novel is called Breaking Faith. It's a little bit darker, I think, than War in My Town, although War in My Town, it does have its sad parts, but this one here is it's also a young adult novel, and it's about a girl who reaches a crisis in her life, and it's a narrative of exactly why. How does a person come to that point in their life where they feel like they have no choice but to self-medicate with drugs? Okay, so it's not only about that. It's about what caused her to become so desperate. All right. So this as well, if you like, you can go to, if you want to contact me about this, you can go to my website. My website is egraziani1.wix.com/egrazianiauthor if you want to contact me or drop me an email and let me know what you think of the reading. Or you can go to secondstorypress.ca, and if you go to the menu above, it says books. You can go to teen books, and it'll bring you to the teen book page. And Breaking Faith is right up there at the top, so you can click on it. And if you click on it, it'll give you a quick view, and it'll bring you to the page, and it'll show you where you can purchase it, or it'll give you a little bit of background about the book. It also, there's also a book trailer there that you can look at, and there's also a teacher's guide, which anyone has access to it if you would like to go in it, and it explains some terms, and it also has chapter synopsis, so that it gives you a little bit of background about the story, about each chapter. Okay, so I'm just going to start with, if you go to the beginning of the book on the inside of Breaking Faith. So here we go, on the very first page. It's heroin. Brian holds the cachet in his hand like a pirate grasps plunder. He walks back into the living room with a plastic sack of powder that looks like sifted dirt. In his other hand, he's got tin foil, a lighter, and a small metal tube. A sober silence stretches between us as he lights the powder, which smells like burnt barbecue sauce. He teaches me how to chase the dragon, and soon I feel darkness lifting. It slips away, pushed by a surge of gentle euphoria. A warm flush swells on my skin, a dry mouth and heavy extremities, like I'm not strong enough to lift my own arm, but I don't want to. I just want to feel it. The calm and the peace, the stillness, even the nausea doesn't bother me. Sleepiness takes me next, and I go on the nod, an alternately wakeful and drowsy state. I'm not sure if it's later that day or the day after, but Brian brings out another fold. His lips draw back as he takes in the smoke. After that, we do it again. I hear people outside his door, hushed voices and footsteps, like ghosts floating in and out, but I don't react, because they are in the apartment next door. I don't care anymore that Mrs. Lieberman has died and that no one else gives a shit about me, because I feel so relaxed and blissfully apathetic, wrapped up in my cozy little cotton ball of heroin. Time is fluid, elegantly slipping in and out of my cup of indifference as the animal in my gut leaves me for a while, and I touch peace. It's like when people tell me that everything is going to be okay. This is what it's like. This is okay. I can't remember eating or drinking or peeing. I can't even remember if we have sex. Maybe it's only the heroin making me feel a gentle orgasm, the absence of fear and loneliness, plus a physical feeling in which all muscles relax. My entire body feels like it's being cradled in a giant, supple baseball glove, or like the feeling of getting into a soft, cool bed after having walked 10 miles on thorns with a burning cross on my back. I chase the dragon, the white curly smoke. Right now, My troubles seem far away, but what I don't know is they're poised to get much worse. So let's continue reading Breaking Faith. I have my dedication in there. And I just want to read the dedication that this is to all the faiths that I've met and have yet to meet. And a quote by Bob Marley that you're going to encounter quite often in the book. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. And one of the points in the study guide is going to be about, dwelling on that and thinking about that, reflecting on it. And I'm going to go on and read that this novel is not only about a runaway teen on drugs. It's about the suffering, bullying, and trauma that the protagonist, Faith, has lived through and why she is the way she is. Only in becoming aware of the baggage that some of us carry upon our shoulders can we begin to understand why we do things we do. Hopefully, Faith's story will help us to see beyond the weirdness, as she calls it, and to treat our troubled peers with kindness and understanding. And if we only bring one thing away from this story, I hope that that is it, to give us a look into her soul and to her being, to see what it's like from Faith's point of view. So let's go on to the prologue, page 1. The two plainclothes police officers park their so-called inconspicuous black car, get out, and look at the shabby roof on the townhouse unit across from ours. Spring rain clouds droop over the city like twisted gray blankets, releasing their first drops just as the pair reach the front door. One of them is young, with blonde hair and a buzz cut. The older veteran cop's a little paunchy with graying hair. Both are wearing light jackets, which cover their bulletproof vests. These images are the first memories I have, vividly seared into my mind, barely being 4 years old and tall enough to rest my chin on the windowsill. The memories remain with me to this day because I watched the whole thing go down from my upstairs bedroom window. The young one is the first to step on the landing and is reaching for the screen door when a discharge loud enough to rattle my window splits the air. A gaping hole is blasted through the front door. One round hits the pane above me and sprays me with glass. The cop with the buzz cut falls to the steps, dead before he hits the ground. I scream as blood trickles warmly into my eye. Doors, windows, and shutters begin to slam shut around the complex. The veteran jerks back, shot in the left arm, but draws his gun fast enough to get a round off through the glass inlay, and then throws himself over the railing onto some long-forgotten decorative urns. The shooting stops. I keep screaming. I feel hands grab my shoulders, dragging me away from the window, throwing me down. Someone lies on top of me, shielding my face. I hear gun blasts and pops, and now sirens in the distance. I keep screaming. Sinbad in the house across the street. Yes, his name was Sinbad, like the guy who sailed the 7 seas. Firing his semi-automatic at the two cops from the other side of the door was higher than a kite on crystal meth. Sinbad gets shot right in the chest. At least that's what all the kids in the neighborhood said afterward. I didn't see it because my mother had pushed me to the ground and had thrown herself over me. In the following months, I have to sleep with Mama because I wake up with night terrors. Darkness comes over me like a shroud and stays for a long time, and I think I'll never feel happiness again. For a long time, I refuse to leave my mother's side. I have headaches and my stomach hurts, and I pee the bed. Mama takes me to the doctor, and he says that I should see a therapist, but it takes us 3 buses to get there. Mama and I go twice, and then she gives up and says she'll help me grow out of it. Does anyone ever outgrow something like that? It may ebb and flow, but go away? Nah, not thinking so. I chose to start my story here because it is the pivotal point, the hinge in my door, the fulcrum in the balance. This is the beginning and the beginning of the end for me. Look, I'll be truthful. I'm doing this because my counselor told me that if someone is hurting emotionally on the inside, that it helps to write things down. It's kind of exercise, writing about your feelings and fears and stuff. Writing makes you feel better, I guess, because everything is right there in front of you, balls out in black and white. I guess now is a good time as any to introduce myself. My name's Faith Emily Hansen, and I'm 18 years old, I have blonde hair and brown eyes. I've got 2 half-sisters, Destiny, the younger, and Constance, the older. And yes, we have nouns for names. I've wondered why that is, and I suppose the logical person to ask would be my mother. I do have several theories, into which I've done a little bit of research. Our names, of course, were chosen by my mother. That was the easy part. Now here is where the research comes in. Constance's name means firmness of purpose, or constant in character. And in truth, Constance is stronger than any of us and is unflinching in her goals, though I would argue her character isn't as constant as I would have liked her to be a couple of years ago. But that's for later. Destiny's name has everything to do with belief in one's future and one's fate. That said, I can see where she has developed the grit to work through her wishes for a better one. I'll repeat that. That said, I can see where she has developed the grit to work toward her wishes for a better one. After all, I, her middle sister, was a perfect example of what not to be. And in spite of everything, she'll be the first to tell you that she doesn't believe in destiny or serendipity or whatever you call it. She insists that people make their own destiny. And with that, I agree wholeheartedly. And lastly, there's me, Faith. Faith is a noun, packed with synonyms: commitment, dedication, loyalty, the list goes on. Faith brings images of devotion and trust. That is me to a fault. But this is a two-parter. First, faith is a fault when too much loyalty and devotion can destroy you if the person or thing that you believe in is hurting instead of helping you. Second, lack of belief or confidence when it comes to yourself can really mess with you. I suck at living up to my name with respect to that. I believe in the deepest depths of my heart that Mama named us after qualities she thought she didn't have. Strengths that were necessary to be able to cope with all the crap that life threw at her. Now, things weren't so bad for her when Constance was born. But by the time me and Des were in the picture, I think she recognized her flaws. Maybe she thought that by naming her daughters after positive qualities, that somehow we would be given the grace to deal with being crapped on, metaphorically speaking, of course, in ways in which she could not. But I'm jumping way ahead now. Let me back up a little and put things in perspective by giving you some necessary family background. I, Faith Emily Hansen, was born in Greenlee, Ontario. I was raised in a red brick row house on Danziger Crescent at the end of Delbert Street, with a blue shingled roof and a green door that had been painted over so many times it was tight in the door jamb. As a kid, I remember squinting at our house from across the driveway in the worn and weary complex where we lived and thinking it looked like someone had pieced together giant Legos to create cookie-cutter row houses. I lived with my mother, Lacey, and my grandmother, Dorothy, Dot, as everyone calls her. We lived as an almost normal family until my mother decided that she had some living to do elsewhere when I was 7, my little sister, almost 5, and my older sister, 10. Then it was just Gran and us 3. I'll admit that at school I referred to Gran as my mother sometimes because I didn't want the other kids to know Mom had left us. I prayed my classmates never found out, but of course they eventually did. Everything comes out in the wash, my Gran would say. She was fond of using adages like that when she didn't know what else to say. Allow me to confess that I always knew I was different. And I'm not just referring to the family structure in which I was raised. I mean, my mind worked differently. At home, I would cry a lot because I felt misunderstood, and misjudged. And at school, I was a riddle to adults and other kids alike, just as I was a riddle to myself. Even with sporadic counseling, I was still weird. I would blame it on me. Now I know better. At school, I tended to be morose and sullen and nervous and kept to myself. Contrary to my dark attitude, though, I would often hum while the teacher was in the middle of her lesson, which clearly distracted me. That didn't mean I was happy. I hummed to help myself concentrate because I had too much going on in my head. Of course, she would tell me to stop and would admonish me for it, but I couldn't help it. In addition to humming, I would sometimes tilt my chair onto the 2 back legs and fall over onto the desks behind me. The kids would laugh, but my teachers would look worried more than anything else. They would come back and help me up and ask if I'd hit my head. I would always say yes, even if I hadn't. That was always good to get to the office for ice as a distraction. The office was an altogether different adventure. I had the office all figured out. I pegged the school secretary as a nasty piece of work not long after our first exchange, though now when I look back, she wasn't really. Mrs. O'Grady meant well most of the time, and for the most part, she tended to humor me unless I tested her patience, and then things got ugly. Maybe by now people are thinking they know what's coming. My story is the quintessential example of a person who is the sum of all her experiences, and that if I didn't have all these issues, I wouldn't be the strong person I am now. I wouldn't be writing this, I wouldn't be writing this so that maybe it would help out other kids who are messed up. And perhaps others would add that it's not the destination, it's the journey. And to this, I would vehemently say that's a load of shit. Everyone wants to end up in a good place, the easiest and most effortless way you can get there. Those inspirational quotes are just something people say when other people are having a rough time and they're not sure what advice to offer. Empty words are things I found most irritating when I was on my so-called journey, my journey in the dark, fighting the demons of anxiety and drugs and being on the bad side of mental health due to the pain and confusion caused by my emotionally immature mother and a random act of violence. Often in my struggle, I felt like what my gran called an old soldier. I don't very much like to invoke the old soldier metaphor, but in my case, it works well, having lost more battles in my life than I have won. Like I said, I don't cling much to the power of sayings, but I do have one that got me through most days. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. Bob Marley said that. This became my motto when I felt darkness and fear growing inside me like a cancer. In my quieter moments of mapping my escape from rock bottom and dreaming of feeling good about myself, finding the courage and will to talk to someone about the darkness and my pain is what pulled me off my own personal ledge. I still need to talk and talk and talk about everything, and I share my pain, and my talking helps others, and others talk and talk and talk to me and give me their pain, and everything is shared and passed around. And when that happens and other people are carrying some of it for you, the toxic load in your core is lighter. Call it distraction, call it focus, call it a load of crap, but that worked for me. And now, as I take strides to maybe someday make the world a better place for me, I realize that no human being, no matter how tattered physically and emotionally, how weary of mind and shattered in soul, is unworthy of our consideration. In my heart, at times, when the pendulum swings low, I'm still out there shivering right along with them. And I keep writing. This is my ending and my beginning. And for today, I'm going to stop there. Okay, so the next chapter is chapter 1. I'd like to remind you, if you liked what you heard, let me know, and I'll post another chapter. So this was Breaking Faith by Graziani. You can, if you like, you can go to secondstorypress.ca /teen, and you can check out the study guide and see if you want to even look at some book trailers. They're there, or further information about the novel. You can go to my website if you'd like to contact me, and that is egraziani1.wix.com/egrazianiauthor, and the 1 is a numeral. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you.